What's up, everybody? Welcome to Don't Give Up with Jacob. Today, I have a special guest joining me on my show. Not only that, but she is also a neurodivergent licensed therapist, trauma specialist, and mental health expert. And she's also the founder of her private practice called Uncovering You. So please give a warm welcome to Tyana Tavakol.
Woo! Thank you so much, Jacob. I'm really excited to be here and be a part of this.
No problem. I'm so glad you were able to come today so I could have this nice conversation with you.
Yeah. Would you like me to introduce myself? Would that be
Of course.
okay?
And I'm also going to be asking you, what are some healthy ways to set boundaries?
Yeah, boundaries are huge, right? Boundaries are what help people to meet us where we need. They help us feel like we're protecting ourselves. And I think that when we're going to set boundaries with someone, there's two main questions we should ask ourselves, and then I'll talk about how we can actually set the boundary. So, one question to ask yourself is, why am I setting this boundary, right? Why is it important to me? Is it that if I don't set this boundary, then I'll hold some type of resentment? I won't be able to show up in the friendship with kindness and compassion because I haven't spoken up for myself. Am I doing this because it's just like a value that I have that everyone in my life needs to meet? So just get really clear on the why, because that will help you know what exactly to say. And then the second part to ask yourself is, can I be okay with however they respond? And by that I mean, when we're setting a boundary, we're not doing it for that person to reply well, even though that doesn't make sense. But it's because we're setting the boundary for ourselves. We're doing it so that we can feel like we spoke up and we give this person a chance to show up in the way that we need. And so, for example, if I'm telling somebody, I don't like to be interrupted, and it's really important for me to not get interrupted so that I feel heard and I feel respected. It doesn't matter however they answer is more about them, so I'm getting information. So the goal is, if they respond well, that's information that I can continue to have this relationship, continue to get closer. If they respond poorly, like defensively, or telling me I'm wrong, or telling me I'm too sensitive, that's also information of, okay, now I know maybe I'm not going to be super close to this person. So can I have a goal of just getting information and not being so emotionally dependent on their reaction? And then when it comes to actually saying it, the two things to remember are, one, have it be about us and our subjective experience, not about them doing something objectively wrong. Because our boundaries are about what's important to us. It doesn't mean they're a bad person if they don't meet it. It just means that they're a different person. And the second part of that would be, give them something to do. Give them a positive action they can take to meet your boundary. So using the example of interrupting, you can say something like, for me, I feel really hurt and unheard when people talk over me. I start to feel like what I'm saying is not important. Even if that's not what your intention is, that's just how it lands with me. And so I would really appreciate it if you can let me finish talking before you jump in. And this way you're keeping it about yourself, nothing about that they're a bad person, and also telling them, here's how you can meet me in the future. And then whatever they do, that's, again, just information about the friendship or relationship.
Yeah, I think it definitely sounds very interesting to find the right friends to hang out with and find people who actually understand and get how you're feeling and what you're basically going through in life, because maybe they might be going through some of the same things as you. So that's why it's good to find the right people
Yeah.
to talk to and hang out with in life.
I think the people around you is like one of the most important things, right? That's the people who are going to influence how you think, how you feel about yourself, that they're giving you energy, whether that's like harmful or helpful. So I totally agree. I think the friends you have matter, and also the boundaries that they can take matter, and how they can show up for you really matters too. So yeah, I
Yeah.
agree.
In fact, I also want to mention that some of my other friends have autism like me, so that's how we definitely get along and relate to each other's feelings and relate to basically what we're going through in life altogether. And that's great to know.
Oh, that's super helpful. Like, it's, I think for neurodivergent people to have neurodivergent other people in their community is extremely validating. And sometimes it's helpful because you don't have to explain as much about why something's hard or difficult. Like I know with my other autistic friends, we all have different sensory needs. And so no one is questioning why I say, can we have the lights be lower or the sound is a little loud? I'm going to put earplugs in. No one makes fun of you because they understand. So I think it's great you have that too.
Yeah, it really is, if I have to be honest. And I also want to know some ways of how someone can manage anxiety
Mhm.
in everyday life because I also feel like I manage anxiety in my everyday life, especially with things such as school and
Yeah.
extra work and being rushed. Those definitely get on my nerves sometimes. So, is there any way to manage anxiety so you won't have to worry about things like that?
Yeah, well, like one, just to normalize, I think everyone hates those things. Those are just always stressful. So you're not crazy at all for being anxious from those. One thing to say about anxiety is that one, we can't totally get rid of it because humans needed that to evolve. So it's part of our DNA, meaning whoever got scared at the bush moving in the forest survived because the lion didn't eat them that came out of the bush, right? But the person who was calm and didn't feel any anxiety and the bush moved and they said whatever, the lion ate them. So the anxious people lived. And so we have some of the anxiety just as human beings, but we can definitely do stuff to make it less overwhelming. And so there's both short-term things and a long-term one. Short-term things that are helpful to just implement as habits. I'm going to cover, I think, like three main categories around that. One would be mindfulness and slowness. And the reason that's important is because, kind of as you said, anxiety is rushing, it's fast. Our brain is moving fast, our heart is racing, everything's fast. And so when we start to show our body we can be slow, it starts to learn, oh, I don't have to be in this fast survival mode. I can be safe and slower. And that looks like things like an easy one, when you're doing anything, notice if you're rushing. Like when you're walking, are you walking really fast? When you're washing dishes, when you're doing a task, and just do it a little slower. Be really mindful of your pace to slow down your nervous system. Other things include bringing yourself back to the present because anxiety we usually get in our head. And so things like if you're washing dishes, pay attention to how you're washing dishes. When you're on a walk, look for things that are green. Whatever you can do to bring yourself back in the moment. And similar to that, I would say some type of movement is helpful because anxiety is energy. It's a lot of energy in our body and we need to get the energy out. So part of that can be, like I said, going on a walk can get it out. If you like a bit more movement, doing sports, doing strength training, anything where you're getting the energy out of your body is great. And it can even be something like there's something heavy in your house and you just lift it. You just take some time to like lift it or push against a wall. You just want to get out of your body. And a big component I would say is aspects of physical health like sleep. When we don't sleep enough, our whole system gets disrupted and it's really hard to operate kindly and happily in the world. And that usually also means our anxiety is higher when we're not sleeping. So it's really important to try to get enough hours of sleep. And that means things like being careful about using our phones at night or eating too much sugar before bed or having coffee too late in the day. Caffeine is also a really big one. Everyone's body is different in how they process coffee, so there's no one solution, right? Like people with ADHD sometimes don't even notice when they can drink coffee before bed and be fine. But for some of us, like me, I can't. So know your sensitivity and be careful how much coffee you have. And things like that are just kind of these more shorter term solutions that will overall bring down the levels of anxiety. But long term, I think the most important one is understand why you're anxious. This is where therapy or having some type of mental health looking into can be really helpful because it could be that you don't remember a time in your life when you haven't been anxious. Maybe you've always been tense. That could be genetic factors that were maybe your parents were anxious. Maybe it's that your childhood was difficult, starting to understand what could be driving it. And it could be something like you said, a temporary situation where you're in school and school's hard, or you're working and maybe your boss sucks and that is making your anxiety really high. Knowing the why is going to help you start to learn how to shift it too. So I think it's important to have both those like breathing exercises and things like that, but also understand the core engine driving it.
Yeah, I think those are some really helpful ways to deal with anxiety. I also deal with anxiety in some of the same ways, like I usually ride an exercise bike in my house. or listen to some of my favorite songs by my favorite music artists. I
Perfect.
also draw and color and sometimes even go for a walk. Those are really helpful.
Oh yeah, then you're doing all the things. Like those are all great ways to do it. Very mindful and a lot. I hear like the movement too.
Yeah, movement is a really great way to get all your energy, get all your lightness, and get all your anxiety just out of your system and out of your body and out of your brain in general.
Yeah, just like whoosh, like everything goes out a little bit.
Yeah. And now I'm going to ask you, what do you think self-acceptance really looks like for people? Because I feel like people see it in numerous different ways, like me. Don't you think?
I agree with you. I would love to hear what you think of self-acceptance too, since it sounds like you've heard a lot of perspectives. For me, self-acceptance means loving yourself because of your differences and because of what makes you, not in spite of that, right? Not like, oh, I tolerate this part of me, so I accept myself. I think it's that however you show up, even your days where you're not your best, maybe you're not showing up with your values, maybe you said something that you wish you didn't say, but you love yourself anyways because you know you're just human. And that's not saying, excuse bad behavior, like don't try to grow. It's just like making room for mistakes and making room for imperfection. And also, similar to what I said before, of seeing your differences as a part of who you are and a part of what's great about you. And I truly think, kind of also what you said about friends, having community who truly accept you for you and don't tolerate parts of you helps with self-acceptance so much, because as humans we need other people, and so it's both a mix of us loving ourselves and having people around us who just show us so much love and acceptance too. But I would truly love to hear like what your thoughts on self-acceptance are.
Well, everybody deals with self-acceptance in numerous different ways. I see it in some of the same ways as you. I sometimes make mistakes and I wish I never did those things. I'm like, come on, Jacob, you know way better than that. But that's how I move on and
Yeah.
let all those horrible thoughts and memories go in the past because it doesn't need to affect my life in general.
That's great. I like that you do that because I think you actually spoke to something really perfectly, which is the difference between guilt and shame. And they get in the way of self-acceptance. And guilt meaning kind of exactly what you said of, oh, I don't love what I did, but I'll just do better next time, or I'm gonna learn from this. Shame is when it's, oh, I didn't do a good job. Oh, I'm a horrible person. Oh, what's wrong with me? And you spiral, spiral, spiral. And if you can shift shame to be more of like guilt, right? If it's like, I messed up, but now we can do something different, that makes self acceptance a lot easier than beating ourselves up for it.
Because learning from our mistakes is how we grow and
Yeah.
mature and just make our lives a lot better in general. Because that's how I've come a very, very long way in my life as a young adult.
Like learning from mistakes and just continuing to improve and grow.
Yes, exactly. And I'm very glad that you are doing the same as well. It
Yeah,
really means
it's
a
good to
lot.
meet other people doing that. And that's we're human. That's just what we have to do to keep growing.
That's right. We're only humans. We're not monkeys. We're not
No.
aliens. No, those are not what we are in general.
Exactly. Yeah, not robots, none of those things. Just humans. Nice and simple.
Yeah. So I'm very glad you were able to come on the show today. I'm very glad I got to talk to you about what it's like being a neurodivergent licensed therapist, trauma specialist, and mental health expert. And I'm very glad we were able to talk about how people can understand their emotions better. Why do people struggle with self-doubt? What are ways to set boundaries and how someone can manage anxiety in everyday life. It was great to talk to a real expert like you. I know you know a lot.
Thank you so much. I really like talking to you too and hearing these were great questions and really made me think even deeper about them as well. And so I'm just grateful for the opportunity to be here and get to speak.